Welcome to the Smart CEO Smart Chat. I am Kyra Hardwick, and I am thrilled to be here with you. Thanks for tuning in. We hope that this episode will be an incredible influence on the way that you do the work that you do every day. So whether you're a smart CEO, working from home, working from the office, simply navigating your life and family, whatever it is, today's the day you made a great decision to tune into our podcast and get this smart talk. So let's dig in. Hello, everyone, and welcome. It's Smart CEO Thursday, and I am Kyra Rénel. I am the founder of the Smart CEO Community and the host of the Smart CEO podcast. You are going to have a very smart conversation with us today. I am excited to be with you. Not only that, I'm excited to be with you, but I'm excited to bring to you very important information as we think about our journey as leaders, as we think about our journey as leaders of our home, our businesses, our community, and even better than that, as leaders of thought. And so I have some brilliant guests that I'm going to introduce you to today. But before I do that, we're going to talk about the legacy of care. And this is going to be a conversation about responsibility, due diligence, and intention around our cognitive health, right? And so prevention, and then creating and implementing family systems that really will protect us. And why is this an important conversation for us to be having, smart CEOs, leaders of this wonderful nation and global entities, et cetera? Because we have to care for ourselves first. And if we understand how to care for ourselves, then when it's time to be preventative to care for our families or responsive to care for our families, then we would have already started the practice. We'd have created some systems, and we would also have access to resources to help us do that. One thing that's not changing is the fact that we're going to age as we go. One thing that's not going to change is that we're going to have to be responsible with the way that we manage our cognitive load, what's happening in our brains. And so I won't profess to be an expert in this space. I'm absolutely fascinated by the neuroscience aspect of leadership. I'm fascinated by it. And because I am, I'm excited that I have experts that can help us walk through this journey and talk a little bit more about practical systems in our lives. So we want you to tune in, pull up a chair, plug in, put your headset in, and I want you to get close enough to lock into this conversation and think about where you are on this journey and where your family is on this journey. The intent of this conversation is for me to really invite you to listen in and think about the kind of legacy that you're establishing and the legacy that you're leaving. So no matter where you are on this journey, what age you are, it doesn't matter. This is not about age. This is not about position. This is not about wealth and resources. This is about presence and humanity, and understanding that as leaders, as smart CEOs, the diligence we bring to the table first is that for ourselves. And so I'm going to talk about designing a system and producing a little bit of urgency around that, so that we can really get to a place where we can really understand the early stages of distress and stress in our lives, no matter where we are, and then that of our loved ones, and also embracing our daily access, right, to prevention strategies. This is important. We spend a lot of time in high function. And so for leaders that are grabbing this moment, it's even probably a challenge for you to slow down enough to figure out if this is a conversation you have time for. And I would say this: if it's a conversation time for, stick with us. If it's a conversation you're going to make room for, then tag this, bookmark it, whatever you need to do, grab the link so you can come back and be intentional about listening, learning, and connecting with us. And so that is really what I'd love for you to do. This is all about building a world of smart leaders that can help us continuously, consistently grow wise as we influence the economy of our nation. Small businesses make up 90+% of the economy. And so we drive employment, we drive access, we drive economic development, we drive legal practices, laws, and legislation. And we need to understand that we have to be present in that moment to do it. So there's a lot of responsibility that comes with being a leader. And in this moment, we're going to take the most important and urgent, which is to care for ourselves. So with that, we know it's almost time to pull up around the Thanksgiving table, and you're going to have family around, or you're not. You're going to be on an island doing the things that you love to do to celebrate the holidays, whatever that looks like. But this is a time period in our space where we draw a little closer to our families, to ourselves, to our center, our epicenter, things that connect us back to who we really are. And so to explore, discover, and unlock this conversation, I have the pleasure of having two amazing guests with me today. And I'm excited to bring Danielle Riley to the stage and caregiver coach Pat Bailey to introduce themselves, tell them who you are, and we're going to dig in. Danielle, why don't you kick us off?
Hi, I'm Danielle Riley. I have been a nurse for over 2 decades. And in that time period, I've worked in about a dozen subspecialties of nursing, which brought me to my passion of founding Concierge Clinicians of Houston. It's a concierge home care service where we focus on helping individuals in the home. And my newest passion, which is to really spread the word about digital dementia and the tsunami of cognitive decline that's coming for us if we don't get in front of it.
That's good, Danielle. Welcome to the Smart CEO platform. You all, I'll drop a little insight. Danielle is indeed a Smart CEO. She's also, we're Goldman Sachs alums as well. And on this journey of development, we found ourselves serving each other. And so I'm excited about that. I'm glad you're here, Danielle. And then we have, you guys, I have to tell the story first. No, should I tell the story first, Pat? I don't know. I will tell the story first.
You know what? But we're going to have to tell the story.
We have to
tell the story. But thank you for this opportunity. And it's a pleasure to meet Danielle also. One of the things I really want your audience to lean into as a pastor, I'm known as caregiver coach Pat Bailey. I've been teaching, coaching, and counseling corporations, ministries, and individuals now for over 20 some odd years, associated with Alzheimer's research and the UNT Health Initiative of the $150 million grant, where we brought Black and Brown people into the lane of understanding why are 1 in 2 Black families impacted by Alzheimer's disease, and we don't know why. In that instance, I want everyone to understand that my North Star is caregiving, Alzheimer's, and aging. My pasture is this space. My sheep is caregivers. This is where I shepherd. So I'm excited about this dialogue today and the experience that we're going to bring in, the wealth of information we can share for this holiday season.
Yeah, I think it's important, and I'll reveal the story. I hate to leave people on a cliff, right? It's pun intended. So here's what's real. And I was just having this conversation before I jumped into this conversation with you all on a call, and we were talking about the fact that we're high performing leaders. We are high performance leaders. We perform high, our performance is optimal, and our cognitive load is typically heavy and high on a regular basis. And so I say I give at 110% on most days. I've built some systems in my world that if we honor them, where my calendar shifts and allows for time to think and time for me to be reflective and to be innovative and the such, and also time to reset and rest. That doesn't always show up that way. And so as a leader, I'm constantly in overdrive. And I met Pat. I'm going to tell the story before we dig in. But so Danielle, you're about to learn something about me you probably didn't know. We were on, of all things, a vacation. We're on a retreat. And so this is the year I decided to do something very different for myself, noticing that I needed environments that would allow me to rest and not be on. This was a part of that journey. And so I joined this organization's retreat, and I went on this C-suite retreat. Okay, so these are women. I don't know anyone other than the organizer, and I only know the organizer as in with a couple of months, right? And so I'm on this retreat. I'm sitting in the corner of this shuttle taking us to our hotel. We're headed somewhere between Tulum and somewhere else in Mexico. So the roads are really rocky, and we're just bouncing around doing our thing. All these women are excited. They've all shut their lives down to be together. So Danielle, I'm on this vehicle, in this van, and I'm sitting in the corner. I propped myself up in this corner. I've got things between my knees, things between my feet. I've got this really tall drink that I got as a welcome gift to this country that I'm trying to drink. It's frozen nonetheless. So this is you're not drinking this fast. So it's in between my knees. I've got a jacket in my lap. I've definitely got a backpack somewhere. And then I'm trying to have a FaceTime phone call with my daughter. So imagine me on this bus, like doing one of these, trying to hold all this stuff. And I'm trying not to bump the person next to me. And we're like all being nice. I don't know these people. And we're just doing our thing. And I'm trying to have this conversation. And then this beautiful woman looks at me and she said, "Why don't you let me hold something?" And I was like, okay, I guess the retreat starts right now. And so I said, if you gave me a baby carriage and a bag of groceries, I would hold that too. I said, because I can't. So there and such and though and therefore our conversation and our relationship began. So Pat, before we dig all the way in, tell them why that pained you to watch me do that.
We're having a conversation today about legacy.
Yeah.
How can we expect there to be legacy in our life when we don't understand how to live in the moment to care for each other? There was spiritually stressors around you.
Yeah.
Don't I have a responsibility in the lane that I serve to extend a hand across a sister? All I need to do was hold a styrofoam cup in my hand. It really wasn't that difficult. One of the things about legacy in this lane of where we were, you had not left your job behind. You had not transitioned into self-care.
Yeah.
I believe that extension of myself to you to establish what you desired, which were relationships, forging relationships. We do these retreats and these opportunities, but we don't know necessarily how to move from one lane of understanding to a new level in life to say, I need to get some of me back. Yeah. Honestly, for the listeners, all I did was hold a cup. That's all she needed because she was balancing so many things. And I believe that it becomes a point of just being interested in another individual and their care.
That's so good.
It was good for me too, because now we're still together years later. How about that?
I did not leave her side. Not because she reprimanded me, but because she loved me in that moment and extended such a beautiful grace. And then I got to ask curious questions, and it actually accelerated my time, my ability to like decompress and come down, because I'm like, oh, okay, my humanity is exposed. I'm not a superhuman person right now. Okay, I'm going to be that person. Give me a minute. I'll be there. I was like coming down. Okay, we're going to get into this because Danielle, you and I, we talk about these resets and creating systems and being preventative around the areas that challenge us along our journey as leaders. And we're going to dig in just a second, but Danielle, I want to go deeper. So let's talk about what it looks like when we, and we'll call it young adults, we're going to dig into your area of excellence, but we're hyper engaged in life. And like the story that we just told, that's a real true story. And anybody that knows me was probably like, yep, she did that. It's real. And what does that look like? We're dialed into our screens, we're dialed into life, and we're really looking for an opportunity to check out, but we don't see it. And so how do we deal with this? And then what does this look like? As you're saying, there's this digital dementia warning sign that's looming. How do we deal with this?
I think it's very insidious, and it's creeped into every facet of our life. There's a screen everywhere you go. Your cell phone is with you at all times. Some people even sleep with their cell phone. Your emails are constantly coming through. So you really have to be intentional about how you approach this, because it's really important. The reason why I became so passionate about this, and I'll say this has been a kind of a soapbox issue of mine, even before the term digital dementia was coined, for the last 20 something years, is understanding. As I was going through nursing school, I was pregnant with my first child. So as a mother, you're always wanting the best for your child. I'm really paying attention to the way the brain develops. I'm really paying attention to what I need for my young child to really thrive. And that's when I discovered that cognition and brain development mainly happens early in life, the first 5 years of life. Not only for us, but even for young children, this is going to be a huge challenge. And I think what we have to do is adopt lifestyle changes and norms around these things to set safe and healthy boundaries in every aspect, every facet of our life. That includes digital devices.
Yeah. And I think listeners may say, Danielle, you're a nurse. You're wired to think about the body, the development and all of that. I am not, right? I am not healthcare adjacent in any way. Like what should I be thinking about? And I think this is where the opportunity for us to break this down into very bite-sized pieces for all of us, me included, like you created an alarm in my world and really helped me even think about just how I set up systems around holidays to take ownership right now of prevention. And so as smart CEOs, we try our best to hold it all. But I think what has come to us full circle is that we cannot outsource our health. We cannot outsource our mindset around prevention. We cannot outsource our responsibility to be diligent and kind and gracious with ourselves. And that no longer does prevention or response start at retirement age. It's starting early.
Yeah.
We're starting early. So what are you seeing in young adults right now? And what do we need to know, Danielle, as we think about how to equip them, their parents, to school? Like, what does that look like? How can we get in front of this?
Let's think about the fact that 95% of what we know about the brain, we've only discovered in the last 30 years.
Wow. Wait, but the last 30 years.
In the last 30 years. And how long have smartphones and devices been around?
I was going to say, I know how old I am.
Right, about 2025. So as we really started to map the brain, we have this convergence of this digital world that is rapidly changing the development of the brain from day one, from birth. So it's really important. What really brought this into focus for me is I've been taking care of elderly people, clients with dementia and cognitive decline for over 20 years. And I see the devastation and destruction that it can cause in families financially, mentally, socially. And I really looked at the correlation of there being an earlier onset with our younger generation because of all of the digital media. And I thought to myself, wow, I know how difficult it is to take care of a parent that has dementia. Now imagine that your child starts to develop cognitive decline in their 30s, 40s. Now you're taking care of an elderly parent, but you're also now seeing signs in your child. And let's look at what the picture looks like for our world of caregivers. We care for many elderly. We know that our children that are now young will be caring for us as we get older. What will be the quality of our care if we're dealing with a generation that has sixfold the level of dementia that we have today?
So it's almost like this closing in, right? It's the closing in. And so a lot of people don't like to get into this whole generational conversation, but I know I'm a Gen Xer. And so I am in the throes of looking at parents or my senior loved ones that will need my guidance, support, and help and care. I also am raising young adults. And so now I'm thinking, where do I live there? I spend a lot of time, I think, educating them now around just managing their energy, managing stress, managing anxiety, thinking of new ways to process information. I do that now with my young adults. But what you're alarming us to is not only are we positioned in this sandwich generation, we're also positioned as we're the initiators of the dialogue. And so we're causing cure in many places, right? Where we're having to really think about ourselves. I'm sorry, I've got a infinity screen, Kayla. So I just want to make sure you know that. And so what does that look like, Danielle, as we think about, you talked about in the elderly, you're seeing their decline. It's a physical, it's a financial impact. What are some of those preventions that we can do? Like, how important is our hydration regimen, our sleep regimen, our movement regimen, to be able to counteract some of the things that we're seeing later in life today? Like, how important is that now, like at 16, so to speak?
I would go even younger than that. I would start at birth because cognitive decline, think about a clock that has multiple cogs and multiple wheels. One of them gets a little shaky or one of them loses a little bit of teeth. The clock can still function. If you lose one of those wheels, then you have a broken clock. So everything it's important to really hit on all of the pillars. So from a young age, myopia is, I believe there's an 80% increase in myopia, which is basically from looking at screens, looking at things close up. So when you think about a baby looking at a tablet, when you think about a kid who spends hours a day at school on their computer, and then they come home and they're on their phone and they're on their phone and they're riding in a car and they're on their phone. Myopia develops between the age of 0 to 25 while the eyes are still growing. And so we know that there's a correlation that people who develop that before 25 are significantly at risk for developing blindness which is associated with cognitive decline. So let's look at the eyes. Let's look at the fact that our generation of children, 75% of their diet is ultra processed. So we have this increasing the incidence of heart disease, diabetes. Let's look at the fact that they live a very sedentary lifestyle. We used to climb trees, build forts, have all this imaginative play, and it was a punishment for us to be inside. We were outside all day. So we're learning environmental cues. We're looking and learning social cues. We have higher incidence of a higher quality of coordination. So all of these things that contribute to cognitive decline are built into our child's day-to-day life. Also, probably one of the more important factors is sleep. So if you're looking at your screen within 2 hours of going to bed, you're getting blue light. So what kid, what teenager is not looking at their screen right before going to bed? What toddler is not playing with a tablet or watching cartoons right before bed? So it's telling their brain, be up, it's daytime, be active. So it's difficult for them to get to that deep restorative sleep that significantly increases their risk of cognitive decline later. So these are things that build on each other like a stack of paper. One thing, one incident is just a one sheet of paper, but the more that you build and the longer your screen time is, the less activity you have. That's all adding stacks of paper to your stack. And it's very difficult to take a sheet off. So once it builds up, it's there. It's very difficult to reduce it, and some things can't be reversed.
That's very, I'll say, I'm trying not to be an alarmist, but that's very, it creates urgency, okay? Because when you think about this is just real everyday life. And I guess they say, if the shoe fits, Cinderella, go and put it on, girl. Because one of the things we implemented in our family for November, and I do this in November, and then I try to do it again in February. And we probably need to find some other times during the year, but we call it No November. And so that means no to excess, any excess of any kind that we don't have to do. If we don't have to do it, we're not doing it. It means no ordering excessive takeout or no excessive deliveries to the door. It's about going to the grocery store, getting back around the table. We also push and align more around family-centered time. And so this is my check for myself to bring it back. It's not, and it's a lot of it's because we're slowing down. But one of the things that I've watched happen is we're all cooking. Everybody's doing the dishes. We're not missing trash day. We're also not stacking up the to-go boxes in the refrigerator. Okay. And that's a big deal. We're consuming. We're not letting the fruits and vegetables go bad, right? We're running out of stuff because we're consuming it in our home. And I think that's been a big piece. And the reason why I'm checking into that moment, because that's a response to being super, we'll call it super busy, but it's just super unaware and super unintentional about the daily behaviors, right? And so when you start talking about myopia, that's your eyes, your ability to see, right? Just a moment ago, I took my glasses off because there's something glaring, but I need them because I noticed during COVID that the blue light was then giving me a headache. And so I'm squinching my eyes. I couldn't figure out why I had a headache. Now I had tension in my face. Then I had tension in my jaw. Then I had tension in my neck. It's like this trickle down effect. It's because I'm trying to do something that my body is resisting because I've exhausted my eyes, right? Because I was working so much. Very simple. So imagine when I'm doing it because it's a pleasurable moment and I'm just scrolling through watching stuff, or your kid or your child is in the car and you're noticing that they're not connecting human to human. They're watching what's happening on a screen. And that then becomes this roller coaster that we put ourselves on, or this hamster wheel. And you don't want to pull them out because that's their enjoyment because you're also busy doing something else. So for all the parents that need to come to center on this, but then that ultra processed diet and then that sedentary lifestyle, right? And so let's get out. And I know working out is part of our regimens, but I'm talking about let's get out and enjoy the environment. Danielle, you hit something really
well, not only enjoying the environment, but connecting, because what we know about screen time is that it reduces one's ability to develop empathy. Empathy is developed by personal relationships and interactions. You are raising your future caregiver. Now, we see a significant decline in empathy. Like, cameras have been around for 100 years. Did anybody ever used to stop and take photographs of a dying person as opposed to help them?
Mm.
Now you see that significant reduction in empathy, but it's a direct result of the increase in screen time. It's their imprinting. Like a duck who was raised by a dog would imprint on the dog. Well, they're becoming more connected, addicted to their devices than they are with their relationships with real people, namely their parents.
Wow. Wow. This is a big deal. And we're gonna go a little further in this conversation. Danielle, you mentioned sleep being a huge cue for our restoration as well. And I'd like to invite caregiver Pat Bailey, Coach Pat Bailey, to this conversation. So you, Danielle, and I, Danielle, we can all bring this in, because one of the things that we know is that we have the ability to create a restorative cycle. If you're giving us the issue, we know the issues up front, right? And we have some time to put in some preventative systems that then we can create some type of cycle that will allow us to catch some things early so we can change some of our future outcomes. Pat, would love to hear your thoughts around what happens when we catch the signs. And I know you're dealing with families that are definitely looking at it from a later in life stage. But what happens when you hear somebody come whisper to you and say, hey, I'm noticing, this, or I'm noticing this in myself? What are some of the things that you're hearing? And then I would ask you, how are you approaching the soft conversation empathetically around this is what you might need to consider?
So there's two lanes I want to offer, and this is such a great dialogue. Thank you, Danielle, bringing focus to this particular subject of what's happening and how we are wiring our brain today. But what we don't take in consideration is the vertical of, in that I am a pastor, this aspect of relationships and the spirit to spirit relationship has everything to do with the way in which we will survive as a people. The devices were built by us. They're not designed to take care of us. It's going to be heart to heart. And we need to remember that. The other thing I want everyone to consider is that when you consider dementia, as we now have a new facet associated with the technology implosion in our lives, there are various biomarkers that are associated with the potential of you actually getting dementia. Mm-hmm. So in this instance, you're going to deal with diabetes, you're going to deal with hypertension, you're going to deal with menopause, sleep disorders, you're going to deal with genetics. Oh, my goodness. On the maternal side, by the way, you have, of course, your own stressors. You've got mental disorders. And of course, we talked about sleep and menopause and sleep and that hormonal balance in our bodies. What all this means to us is we need to remember intentionally how we want to age well and what are going to be those steps along the way that's going to make that happen. So most times I do get the family members who say, something's going on with my parents' memory. My job and my opportunity is to talk about how the disease state may be presenting itself. Because technically, dementia is in your body, potentially as it relates to Alzheimer's, which is dementia is the umbrella. Alzheimer's is approximately 60-80%. It's in your body 10 to 20 years before you ever see it. Because what Danielle has shared, which I think is so powerful, is that you need to understand that as we talked about years ago about building blocks, you're building your aging platform yourself, and you can influence it and know when to influence it. So I get things like they are repeating themselves. All right. Talk to me a little bit more. They're forgetting where they're leaving things. Let's then go through some basic fundamental questions about the lane of forgetfulness, because we all will forget things occasionally. The question that I always ask people, you may have opened the refrigerator and saw the keys in there. The question is, did you know there were keys?
Ah, wow.
You can talk to us about the executive functioning aspect of it. Pawpaw is getting lost. Your ability to literally intentionally gingerbread your house one way to then come back and do it the other way. And this is why we talk to people about puzzles. It's really significant, I think, that we really don't seem to understand what it has been taking us over the years to deal with song and memory, the music therapy, all of these aspects that biblically from the lane of being a pastor that bring us joy. I remember being a teenager, I'm in the house by myself. I'm now back living with my dad. And one of the things that my brother said was, this is going to be problematic for you because when you laugh, there's no one there to laugh with you. We feed each other. Does that make sense? So in the lane of what I do in with caregiving coaching, I actually help people craft not just the plan for their parent and loved one, to understand as there are stages of Alzheimer's, there are phases of caregiving, and we take you through these relative. They're not balanced 100%, but let's understand how we're going to map our way through it. But the biggest thing we try to do is we try to write a plan for you that will allow you to age well together.
Yeah. Pat, you said something really powerful when you started this conversation, and you just capstoned it in that moment. This is a heart-to-heart experience. Life is designed to be a heart-to-heart journey. And we need the synthesis between hearts in order to continue to live well. And then in the latter portion, you just stated, to age well together, because the journey of life allows us to do life together. And how do we go through this in a way that produces the most positive, the most legacy focused outcome, the most connected outcome? It is to do it together and to be centric to our heart. So I'm gonna put this out here, right? We're leading an holiday season. And when Danielle and I first started this conversation, we were like, what can we do to create a very practical approach to connecting to families to this concept? And I have a prompt that I'm going to offer to the listeners. And this is something that you can pose around the table. You can pose it around a family virtual. You can pose it on family vacation. You can pose it on the ride to the airport. But here's the prompt. What's the one thing that we can all do, we'll say this week, to rest our brains together and not just alone? So thinking about what Pat just said, how Danielle framed this for us as well, what is the one thing we can all do together to rest our brains this week and not just alone? So no one needs to answer it. It is our prompt to embrace and choose if we desire. And it's our tool to use to start this conversation amongst our family in a way that informs them, but also empowers them. And I think because we really want you to understand, and I love that Pat said that, you choose, wait, and I'm going to ask you to say it again. You said you are building your aging.
You're building your own aging platform, and you have a choice.
Aging well platform.
Absolutely. You have a choice.
So we are designing, we're building. Go ahead, Pat. I'm sorry. Come on. Say it.
That prompt is powerful. You're just all in my lane, because I see a whole bunch of fingers in me making up this sweet potato pie and getting some mashed potatoes done. I need families to understand how to family again.
Yeah.
Because we've lost that connection, and we've used time against ourselves.
We have, and I'll share this. So I recently was challenged to get on TikTok by one of my corporate partners, and she got on, and then I was like, okay, I'm coming. I'm jumping on here. I don't know what to do, but I'm coming. So my son and my daughter both gave me respective training sessions, and my daughter then critiqued the actual post and gave me live learning moment. But I found my way. So for those of you that would love to just be entertained by the life that I do live, you're more than welcome to join me on TikTok. So anyway, so one of the things that I put out there was, hey, listen, guys, my goal was to do a couple of things. And I said, one of them was to get back to the kitchen table, right? This is in October, because I knew November was coming. I got to start building my habits again. And I said, guys, here's the thing. We didn't make it to the table, but we did make it to the kitchen counter, which is a nice sized island. We'll call that a win for today. And we did eat the food. I was still standing up. My kids were sitting in the sidebar chairs. We were chatting. Somebody still jumped on their phone. I still probably ran and answered a call and moved some laundry. But there was a meal that came from the oven to the counter on plates, and we were together. Okay. Nobody's running to practice. Nobody's too busy to stop. And so most recently, though, I am celebrating because we made it to the table. And so we made it to the table, and I have been cooking. And for those of you that know, I love to cook. And Danielle, you and I have talked about this, and Pat, I know you love to cook too. But getting to a place where you can cook, I like to put love inside my food. Like that's an ingredient. I want love in it, not rush and urgent. And so if I don't feel like I can really just love on my food and serve my family, I almost not want to do it. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I've done that. And most recently, I pulled out the crock pot. And when we think about the funny of that, right, there's this meme that was floating around social media, and it was like basically the quorums of a traditional, we'll say a cultured family that made that spaghetti on Wednesday. And the mom keeps hollering back to them when they're like, what are we eating? And there's spaghetti in there. And so you all get it. And so that whole concept of there being like this crock pot full of food is also the reminder that this is something else for us to come back to the table around. But then to be creative about how many different ways can we eat this food? And the simplicity of the goal is just to get back to the table, because there's conversations that you can have. There is the resting of the brain, right? And so we're gonna go a little deeper. So Danielle,
I just wanted to add one little thing to that. Think about how many different aspects you activate by cooking. So one of the things that we talk about with cognitive decline, think about your great-great-grandmother. If she was going to have apple pie, what did she have to do? She had to go out there, pick those apples, make sure that they were ripe, make sure that she mitigated the wood oven to have the right temperature for that cast iron skillet, and timing and all of these different things that went into making an apple pie. Now you just pop out to the grocery store, grab it, put it in the oven, and it's done. So many things that we've lost. So during this holiday season, I say not only sit at the table and eat with your family, but let's start cooking together. So one of the things that you can do with every age in the home, if they're a toddler, they can help you get the ingredients out the refrigerator. A child that's a little bit older, they can be the sous chef. They can wash the vegetables. They can use their little butter knife and chop the things that they can. We're all around the island doing our part. And maybe it's the grandmother that's reciting the recipe, making sure they do it right, making sure that they learn all of these little tips that they're not going to find online in that recipe. So we can all engage from 2 to 80 in the kitchen this holiday season.
Danielle, let me tell you how powerful that is. My mom was at this particular time, my mom died as a result of Alzheimer's. And during her first phases, the question was, what tools could we use to continue to add dignity and value in her life? Mm-hmm. And when it came to, at that time, cutting up some sweet potatoes, snapping some peas, and I ended up with more peas than I would ever need. But it did not matter. What mattered was really lean into what you're saying, because I have a direction with caregivers where I'm like, caregivers cook up caring. And this is the opportunity to do just that. Everybody being able to add value to it, and the grandchildren in particular, as I'm a Gigi, so I got 2 of them, they get great joy and love of saying how they can contribute to doing something for Gigi, and then Gigi doing something back. It is even to the point of the storytelling. We've lost the ability to live together because we went nuclear, but we can get it back.
That's right.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. Oh my God. Okay. So Pat, I'm going to go deeper with you really quickly. One of the things that I know that is really important, and you mentioned it, is having access to those senior individuals in our lives. And so when I think about I call them my grandgirls, like it's my grandmother, my great grandmother, my aunts, my great cousins, my third cousin, which was like the great aunt. And the men, let's not forget the men. They were just out hunting and doing other stuff. So they were doing their thing. This is all an all-inclusive living and learning environment. And I'm blessed to have had my grandparents and my great-grandparents and access to them. Like I literally can feel the obligation, duty, responsibility of their injections in my life every day. But one of the things that you mentioned as we think about like this generational layering is even understanding the value of that, like having people in your life that have a dynamic amount of influence because of their lived experiences, where they can help you bring this thing back to center. We're not who we are because we formed this of ourselves, right? We're not who we are because we've got all these commas behind our name. We're who we are because of the lived experiences and the influences of those that have poured into our lives up to this point, positive, negative, and that which was in between. And how we moved or decided to adopt or adapt or adjust as a result of our lived and learned experiences, now knowledge gained, etc., is now really the catalyst for determining who we are today, right? Who Kyra is today is a result of all that was deposited in her, how she processed it, how she acknowledged it, her learned then lived experience, her education, etc., how she's now adopting it in the life she desires to live today and the way that she wants it to feel. That's how I got here. Not because I went to school and got an MBA, right? Not because of that. It's because I brought all of those things together. And just as Danielle said, we're raising our caregivers. When you're looking in the eyes of a family member that realizes that the tide is turning in their own world as they look at their family members, how are you working to really prepare the people that are caring for others? How are you helping them see this journey ahead?
I have the pleasure of working obviously in ministry and bringing biblical construct and God in the dimension of how I serve, regardless of your belief system. I'm able to engage in a spiritual context to help everybody understand. If you ever want to understand caregiver, you need to understand Psalms 23. The Lord is my shepherd. Caregiving is being a shepherd. And in that instance, if we elevate, we understand all of what God gave us from nature, from the actual parents himself. He created a mechanism for you to model that's lasted for thousands and thousands of years, obviously, right? It's an opportunity to get everybody to take a moment to say, I need you to see again what the creation process is like for you in your life, because you're getting ready to be creative in your own personal plan, because there's a caregiver that's born. I was a born caregiver. I knew it at 6 years of age. That's how early I got convicted. So if you're going to take up this role and this responsibility, we're going to do two things. We're not going to do just one thing. Yes, we're going to understand the path that your parent is now going to walk because of what happened over their last 20, 30, 40 years of their life, but we're going to plan for you as well. Why is that? Because your children are watching. Right now, as we come close to 2030, we got 220 million people over the age of 50. Right now, we've got 1 in 6 seniors suffering with poverty. Right now, we have approximately 60 million people that are over the age of 65. We are an aging country. But when you look at the lane of leadership and legacy, which is where you started from, if we don't take care of this leadership lane, we're all going down. Because I was a senior level executive trying to care for a mother who was diagnosed with Alzheimer's and dementia. And I bring her down to Texas, where I'm originally from, Chicago. We have to learn the family together again. And what does that look like?
Yeah.
So the planning process is going to take care of several different forms. You're going to understand your financial obligations and the construct. That's extremely important. Let's face it, money is going to be important in this process. We're going to talk about your familial structure. I do a class called Navigating Sibling Relationship, which we talk about too tight Teddy, too busy Betty and Bob, shame Sally, and resentful Ronnie, which you know are your brothers and sisters, because y'all don't get along. Y'all were kicked out the house, go get a job, don't want to see you again. But then I'm sorry, that's not the way it works. We are mandated in Ephesians 6:2-3 to care for our parents. The other aspect you're going to understand is you're going to understand how to self-care.
Yeah.
You know what's extremely important about it? And I love the conversation that we're having with Danielle about it. People do not know what their joy is.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't know how to quickly go into joy. They don't know how to quickly go to sleep. They don't know. We will teach you mechanisms on how to reacquaint yourself with your today for your tomorrow. Does that make sense?
It does.
We're going to go through daily living aids, because the thing that happens is the legal construct of what's missing in our family. Here it is. My mom was the greatest generation. She really wasn't sharing a lot. She really wasn't trusting us a lot. I'm not trusting anybody with my money. Does that make sense? That's not the world we live in today.
Right.
I want to see more wills. I want to see more trust. I want to see more understanding of the TODD with your property. I want to see more TOD and POD with your checking accounts. I want to see people take responsibility of what God gave you so that you can have the Abrahamic moment in your life and have the generational wealth that you are so desiring to have for you and your children. So there are various verticals.
And before you, let me jump into that big ooey gooey space of amazing. Let's talk about that, because I think when you think of that's a system, right? You're talking about a system, truly. And I'm going to offer this prompt, but I also want to offer it as a talking point for us. So I'm going to offer this prompt. Again, another prompt that you can share around the table with your family or on the family call or in the group chat. And it is, what are we modeling for our teams and our families when we skip recovery? Recovery, also known as wellness and well-being care, or just reset, right? So recovery can have all of the meanings. What are we modeling for our teams and our families when we skip recovery? And what if restoration became a part of our leadership strategy? Now, for everyone that can think about what it looks like to embed restoration in our leadership strategy, I'm going to say, yes, do that times 10. And I want to dig into this a little bit with you, Pat, because I think you mentioned what you mentioned about our greatest generation before us. They really did not have a lot of trust. I remember when my grandmother passed away and we were pulling things out of the home and looking for documents that were going to be essential to the process. You know, it was about finding these things that I was more like, I'm like the little discovery nerd. I'm like reading every little thing in script. I can't hardly read. It's written on the side of a sheet of paper, turned over. It's been laminated, held in a little plastic document holder for a long time. But I was curious about the what. I'm looking for her system, right? At this point, her business system. I talked to her. I know the woman, but I want to now know her business system. And how can we bring that more forward for our families? And I think about, I'm an entrepreneur, and so my systems are very forward, visibly forward for my family to see most of them, most of the systems. There are still things they don't know that I still do in my own silo, and how much of that can they handle, manage, or what have you. Now, when you start thinking about what you said, which is this call for us to put some things in place, I have documentation in place in certain spaces, the people that need to know what they need to do. But when we start getting into kind of this caregiving preparation space, Pat, and we are building our system today as potential caregivers, right? Or support to the caregivers, right? Because I may not be the primary caregiver, but I do want to add value and support to my sibling or whomever that is providing direct support. I want to really lock in on how important dealing and addressing our well-being is now, not just the fundamentals. I'm not talking about spa days. I'm talking about really embedding it into our life again, and how you're guiding caregivers to do that as a part of their journey of looking forward at what the work that's ahead of them. Because we hear about caregiver burnout. We hear about they're exhausted, they're dying on the limb. Yeah. So what does that look like?
I want to offer up a couple of things and then lead into the answer. Number one, we've created one of the first of its kind online caregiver support groups at findingnewtomorrows.com/circle.
Okay.
Because our vision is everybody needs to become an educated caregiver for the elderly in the kindest possible way so we can age well together. The takeaway was, as that senior level executive, you wake up one day and you recognize we're not prepared for this. I'm struggling enough to stay prepared on my job. As women, we may be 70% of the GDP, but I'm trying to live every day just to make ends meet as a whole. And now I have the responsibility of caring for the matriarch of the family. And if she goes down the wrong way, I've got to contend with guilt. I've got to contend with acquisitions or of property from other individuals. I've got to deal with anguish and people accusing me of things improperly. I've got so much that I am having to contend with. And all we have to do is that we start as we start right now, as we start with today, is recognize that this planning was there all along. We just didn't want to do it. We're sitting here right now. I'm going to give an example. I am sitting here right now being able to award dollars for seniors for Thanksgiving meals. Now, if I go through the biblical context of Exodus 20:12, Ephesians 6:2-3, and caring for the seniors and the elderly, there is no reason in the world for me to ever worry about feeding a senior today. And not in this country. We have forgotten how to be a set of what I called back in the day, it was called the neighborhood.
Yeah.
It was like I was playing with our little buttons, the butcher, I'm going to be the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker. We have forgotten how to hub together. We need to remember everybody needs to turn and look face on and left and right and say, let me find my tribe and my community of resources that's part of my life across certain corridors. What are those?
I don't want you to go too high on that, because we do have generations that don't understand the village concept or the neighborhood concept. And I don't think that is just a cultural synergy. I think that is a human connection synergy. There have been village formations for hundreds of years, and trying to stay in my lane and not go too far to the left and to the right. Y'all help me. Y'all know what I'm trying not to say. So what I'm saying is this is for everybody. So don't disassociate yourself from the construct of being a part of a neighborhood. And the neighborhood is symbolic of it's the tree. It's the tree that got planted on the block that was the oldest living tree. It's the tree where we come to gather. It's the tree that we climbed. It's the tree where I scraped my knee. It's the tree where you had your first kiss. It's the tree where you sat down and read a book. It's the tree. It's the centerpiece. And so each one of our families, our homes, our apartment doors, our condo doors, our townhome doors, right, our villa doors represents a part of that tree. And because we represent a part of that, the simplistic nature of just being a neighbor, the importance of that, I don't want us to miss. And so I think sometimes we say things, and I know I'm guilty because I say things with cultural context, just thinking if you get it. But I want to land that plane because, Pat, I don't want anyone to disassociate or to de-identify themselves. We are all responsible. And the concept of aging well together means as a nation, it is our privilege to age well together. That is all of us. And as a global community, it is our responsibility and our privilege to age well together. And
I needed to let you get this one out because you're on a roll there. You've taken me back where I'm looking at a tree in my yard and I got ancestors dangling, and I've got people who fed me dangling, and I've got people who handed me jobs that were amazing. And so in this instance, you're right. That is the simplicity aspect of it. The question is, will we identify the tree in our life of what God gave us for the path that we have? And the path that we have is there's no path more important than us taking care of self. And remember, it's God first, then there's family. There is no path greater than that. And in this instance, do I believe that we have lost some framework in that? Some of us, yes, some of us, no. But it's not hard to go back if we turn around and look at those that are here with us that's part of the tree. Kyra, right now, you know everybody in your life that you can call when you have a problem.
Yeah.
And you know who you shouldn't call.
Yes.
You know when it is talk and when it is substance. I'm asking for caregivers to understand that part of the aging process is for you to turn around and take a look at yourself and your needs and the parent and create and craft a plan that is so God-centric. You will never leave the tree.
Yeah.
Because the tree does not leave you.
Yeah.
It is rooted in everything you do. And I know that is a high-end kind of discussion as opposed to the step by step. But one of the things that I find about dancing and learning the steps by step, you got to do the steps to have the joy and to look good at while you're doing it.
There is nothing like you all. I am from the city of Detroit, where ballroom dancing is at the epicenter of movement. So, and I'm a fellow Chicago stepper. For those of you that don't know, that is a movement that brings great joy, and it also looks amazing when you do it in pair and partnership with someone that understands how to move. So, when you think about just the harmony of dancing, regardless of your thing, if it's salsa, if it's the samba, whatever your motion is. And Danielle has already told us how important it is for us to not lose motion on our journey. But just something as simple as that, Pat. being able to literally be in concert and dance and move with your system. And that looks different today. I'm not even calling us to a place where we try to get back what we had in 1983. Okay. I'm not calling us that.
Yes.
I'm saying today we decide how to build today's structure, how to identify today's tree, how to connect with today's family, how to identify with today's version of self, so that we can bring this thing back to center for today forward. So we've lost time, we've lost some connection. Some families have never lost their alignment. I know for a fact we're moving at a pace that caused us in many ways to be more reactive than we were able to just genuinely respond in a way that was careful. And so I want us to not lose that. So Pat, what you're saying is real. And I think that you get to a point in your life and you realize that you're here. I remember that when I looked at myself and was like, oh, girl, it's you now. Like, you're the one. You're here. And that was an age conversation I was having with myself. That was a life moment conversation. That was a success moment conversation. That was a reality check. You're the girl you've been looking at and in the magazine. You are now her. And, oh, okay, now what do I do with her? Because I've been trying to get here. Now I'm here. What do I do? Same conversation.
You know what's interesting about that? When we created because it's been a lot since we last talked. When we created this online caregiver support group, one of the things that we did is this. If we really wanted caregivers to survive this process, we needed to create a mechanism for them to get information like this, the way in which at that speed, right? We created a complete breakdown of, if you're in this particular phase, beginning phase of caregiving, this is what you need to know. We organized it in a way that they could go in. But the other thing we did is, if I give you the tree and the order of the necessities that you need to have, I still got to come after your heart. I still have to find ways for you to connect with your family, connect with your community. I needed you to even understand how to talk to your doctor, because that was the other aspect. I need you to also understand how to talk to the doctor for yourself and for the other individuals. Because what we found with caregivers, that was the biggest aspect, as I spent time even yesterday with someone, or I've spent time with a caregiver who their mother was in an issue with the EMS was there, and she needed to know, what are my next steps? What we did is we took 20 years and put it in a learning module where you're able to go and access that. That's number one. We took the counseling individual and said, let me look at you. Let me understand what you're going on. Because you know what? Right now, I had a caregiver call me at 2 a.m. and she said, my mother is not only bipolar, she has dementia and I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
So in the lane of counseling, I tell people I'm on the lay counseling side. Let me understand how I can get you through this process. So you hit on everything. I love the tree analogy, because in this instance, we don't know how to plant for this. So what we did was, this is how we attacked it. I don't think Kyra has the time in her life right now to understand every facet of caregiving and dementia and the drugs and the processes and what testing. Let me do that for you. Let me have you come into the circle. You get to come into the circle for resources and tips and tools. You get to come in for free. If you want an educational session, as you talked about leaders,
yes.
How in the world can we be leaders over these employees and we do not have programs for them to be self-regulating themselves on how to care for their loved one?
That's right.
The fact that what I had to learn, I was always 10 steps behind. That's over. That's done. So what we've done is, if I go with the analogy, you got me on this tree now.
Let's go. Let's go to the tree.
I got a garden going on right now. And so in that garden, we began to build. We did a session on Medicare and Medicaid. We're going to over-educate you. Does that make sense? This is what we're going to do. We're going to do the tree and put it in your neighborhood where you are consistently dependent upon external systems to solve the problems that you have responsibility for. This is done. This is over. Yeah. You donate your monies toward this plan and you don't know what you're doing. I tell you what, 20 minutes later from the time that you talk to me, You'll be able to go through here. You'll be able to take an open book test and you will understand it. This is what we're doing right now because I don't want to be in the 20,000 foot lane. If I cannot come down and descend upon you and change the course of your family and your actions, what God has given us, we're all going to fail. And it's all about, to your point. And that's why we call it, with the book, The Generational Caregiver Guide. It is designed to stand the test of time. Do you know that literally our caregivers that are across 50 states can get a one-page caregiver guide that will tell them, this is where you go to become a caregiver and be compensated. Here's your TIDE information. Oh, wait a minute. What about veterans' rights? How big is veterans' rights when you're caring for a parent and a male that's going back to World War II, Korean War, et cetera, et cetera? So what we did is we took community and said, if I look at it from the standpoint of a tree, what I want is I want the blocks to talk to me. I want the information, the education to come literally out of the ground and make it accessible and available for people, because this is where we're failing. We don't know.
Yeah.
That will no longer be part of my life with my caregivers.
That's so good. So I'm over here like holding my thumbs, right? 'Cause I'm supercharged by the understanding that the necessity for us to just be educated is like the priority right now. We are having this extended podcast conversation. We decided to be 1000% disruptive and to force it into your live stream feeds today. And we chose that because this is not an optional dialogue, and we didn't want to give you an option. And so we want you to catch it. We want you to know what's most important is you will have access to every resource. But the reason why we chose disruption over, I'll call it process, is because this is an all-inclusive dialogue. It is for the betterment of our lives. I am here to excuse-proof us wherever we can be excuse-proofed. And Pat brought that full center, which is, here's the information. Her organization has been doing this work. They have tools, they have resources. And we're going to bring Danielle back into this part of the conversation, because as we think about leveraging tools, leveraging resources, and being prepared, smart CEO, right? So I'm not saying y'all not smart, but what I'm saying is I'm smart enough to know that we have to, number one, collaborate on dialogue like this. We have to bring resources to us that will bring value to us for the long term. And in order for us to perpetuate a community that is served, regardless of whether the conversation is the most popular or the most essential, it has to happen. Before this morning, this is going to, I know, date this moment, but I was listening to Jay Leno talk about his caregiving journey with his wife. Jay Leno, comedian, right? From most of our life, our early lives. And we've known him for having space and late night talk and television. But he's talking about the journey of that he had, and said, we took these vows, and I don't know that anybody ever thinks they're going to have to live these vows all the way out. And he said, looking at his life now with his wife, she's always been a great place, a great love. Their marriage felt like home was one of the words they used. And he talked about the fact that the ease of them communing together was he'd be working or tinkering on a car. And if you don't know Jay Leno's journey, he's this crazy car buff. And he'd be working or tinkering on his car, and she'd just be out there reading a book and talking to him. Like that kind of beautiful heart-to-heart connection. You do what you love, I do what I love, and we're going to do this thing together. And then you look now, and I'm listening to his voice crack as he's talking about his wife. And Hoda asked the question, and she said, what about things like her favorite place to eat? What about vacationing? And he's talking about it now, saying we binge watch certain things on YouTube because she can't really vacation like she could. And we don't necessarily go out to eat anymore. And he said, when her mother died, she died every day for a year because the information knew every time she heard it. I'm putting that out there because that is real. And that is a husband caring for his wife, right? The duty to love and serve. And as we start thinking about our duty now, early stage as parents, right? And bringing this conversation closer and closer, right? We'll use the tree, we'll use the table so that we can actually unpack it, create solutions, offer opportunities to have free range dialogue about it and not be under the threat of having to respond, right? or pay or find a caregiver or do the things. Like, let's talk now about the what. Let's talk now about the how. And let's talk now about what we can do to prevent. So before we jump in to bring this legacy loop into full circle, here's another prompt for the table. Danielle, the prompt is this. If mom or dad couldn't speak for themselves tomorrow, do we know the plan? Do they know the plan?
They do not.
They do not. Many do not. Many do not. So I'll even offer this. I was having a conversation, and if you guys don't know, I do a lot of succession planning and organizational transformation inside businesses. And so in equal parts, as we're getting older, obviously business leaders are getting older and they're ready to move into the next phase of growth in their business, whether it's to their chairman seat or they're ready to sell and they're ready to go sit on an island, whatever their journey. I've got business owners doing a little bit of both. And one of the conversations we were having was, as I was talking to my colleague in this space, and she said, I focus on creating the structure, just the plain old family structure, so we can move these family offices into the reality of the fact that they need tighter structure so that they can actually run these businesses into the long term, regardless of the events or not, or if they're going to keep generationally succeeding each other. But succession planning is a successful strategy for success. That is a success strategy. How do we create success in our strategy? So it's about the business. Yes, it's about the family. Yes, it's about you individually, more importantly. So succession planning is a right now conversation, regardless of whether you are 20 or 82. The conversation is today. And as we're thinking about succession strategies, I tell business owners, if you were thinking about your exit when you started your business, you would have hired, used your money, thought about your processes, implemented systems a lot differently, and a lot more assertive and aggressively, because you were thinking about that inroad. But you didn't start thinking about your exit until you were maybe 10 years away from the exit. And you're like, wait, I got to plan for an exit, or I'm 5 years, or I'm 3 years, or I had a health event and I realized I can't keep doing this. And so succession planning is a now conversation. Let's move this thing up. Let's empower ourselves and our lives to say yes to creating strategies for long-term growth today. Danielle, that prompt, I said, if mom and dad couldn't speak for themselves tomorrow, do we know the plan or do they? And you said no. And I know that's tongue in cheek. Let's talk about that for a second. And then I want to get into some call to action. But Pat, what's your take on it? Do they know the plan? And just think about you were helping me get my life together on that van. You checked me with no question. No, you didn't. You never apologized, by the way.
You know what? Admit that I did not.
You never have to. You changed my life.
We both knew that as well. I love the way Danielle just went right at it real quickly. Now I can use some common vernacular and say we're nothing but a walking accident waiting to happen. No, we don't know the plan. You know the biggest plan that seniors want? They just want to be in their home when they die.
That's correct.
Yeah.
They don't get any further than that.
Yeah.
They go immediately to state of being. Immediately to state of being. There's a picture behind me. You guys may not be able to see it, but I consistently tell my family about what my aging looks like. I think about that.
Mm-hmm.
And you're able to communicate that, but I've got to put the legs to it. If it needs to look like that, who's going to live with me through that? How do I afford that? All of these areas. And is there a plan? No. We were so used to just growing up and dying. Now that we have a life expectancy of 71 as African Americans, 76 for non-Hispanic whites, now we have a different framework. We're living longer, but we're without a plan.
Yeah. So let me ask you, and let's just be bold about it. What is it? What's the plan? What's the next step? And let's first make this personal. What are we doing? What's our strategy and plan? What are you doing?
I'd like to chime in on that and say, if you take yourself out of the US and you think about the way they age in foreign countries and blue zones, let's talk about the elephant in the room. The way that we age in the US is not in alignment with sustainability. In the US, our aging is like a hill. It's like a curve, like a hill. So when you're a baby, you're growing up, you're getting strong. You're at the top of that hill when you're 20. You're your strongest, most competent. And then as you hit 30, you slow down a little bit, 40, and then you start this slow descent, right, into chronic illness. Your pocketbook is not equipped for 20, 30 years of chronic illness. Insulin prices, adaptive devices, all these things that come along with it. Not only that, your caregivers are going to burn out if they have to take care of you for 20 to 30 years for problems that are largely preventable with the right lifestyle choice. Because if you look at like the blue zones, they age more like a plateau.
What's a blue zone, Danielle?
So a blue zone are areas in the world where they've identified where people age the best. They have the best health outcomes, they live longer, they have less issues to deal with in terms of the things that we see in the US with chronic illness, also related to lifestyle, diet, community. And so
are we seeing that, and this is just for plain application, are we seeing that like South America? Are we seeing that in Asia?
I'd say Japan, Korea, the Mediterranean, those are some of the top areas that are identified. We're seeing it in some of the South American countries. But what they all have in common is they age like a plateau. From childhood up to their 20s, they're up here at this top of this plateau. But because they spend 80% of their time being active physically and only 20% of their time sitting. In the US, it's the opposite. We sit and have a sedentary life for 80% of the day, and we're only active for 20% of the day. They're eating fresh foods that are not full of all of the chemicals, the pesticides, the processing. They engage in community more. They're more proactive about their health. So these are the common things that we see along in the blue zones. And so they age where they're at their 20s, they're at their height, they're at their strength. They hit their 30s, they're still up there. They hit their 40s, they're still up there. 50s, 60s, they might have lost a little step, but they're still way up here. So by the time they get to the end of life, it's like they were sick for 2 weeks. Boom, boom. What happened to Jim? And he's gone. He didn't take 20 years of slow decline because he was taking care of his grandkids, walking to the market every day, cooking, going out in the garden and picking those fresh ingredients, out in the community, doing all of these activities because it's just their way of life.
Yes.
Because we're going to have a capacity issue if everybody continues this slow downward trajectory. Now, you can gain muscle and you can reverse that clock at any time if you so choose. So it's not too late for any of us. I'm doing it now. After my trip to Europe and I got lapped by an 80-year-old on the sidewalk, I said, I think more activity in my life. And so I came home and got on my fitness kick, honey, because I want to age on the plateau. I don't want to put all that burden on my children. I want it to be boom, boom, systems failed because they can't keep it up any longer. And then I'm out of it.
Danielle, first of all, you should see my illustration over here. You nailed that. And that is so empowering for us to know we can control this, guys. We can control this. But you also hopefully prompt us to immediately look around at our spaces, right? Wherever we are. Because if they're active for 80, sedentary for 20, and we're the opposite, right? That is the formula. 80-20. That's the same formula I use with my clients when I say when you are transitioning and succeeding in your business, the CEO should be out of the business 80%, in for 20. That is how we know we've hit a point of, I'll say, efficiency in our life. So we can build efficiency mechanisms in our life now to start reversing it. I'll say, I'm aging gracefully and I'm having my aha moments, these epiphanies, because there are some numbers approaching me that I'm excited about and I'm also shocked by. Well, I remember when I thought my mother was old when she hit this number. And now she's looking at me laughing like, yeah, girl, welcome. You're getting here. You living. My grandmother used to say, keep living, baby. And I would just follow in on that nurturing statement to say, I do want to watch life unfold. But Danielle, you hit it. How do I move to 80%? And what are those tools? So I'll tell everyone that in our post-production of this podcast, and when we roll this out across our newsletter platform, et cetera, we'll have tips, tools, and links in there for you. Okay. So we'll load you up, right? The job now is to take the information in. We're going to give you some tools and things to latch onto. So don't worry, we'll take care of that. But let's talk about it as we bring this conversation to a point of particular clarity around our duty and our call to action today. We're not closing this dialogue. This will be a conversation, but we are going to bring it to a particular point of clarity so we can take action, right? And this is definitely far greater than just about our health, right? This is about who we are choosing to become on purpose and how we're choosing the kind of life and the kind of life experience that we want to have. And so my question to you, Pat, is as you've seen these things and as you've aged gracefully into a space of wisdom and kind of this knowledge and insight, what would you say is a powerful disruptor that our listeners, viewers can inject immediately into their world to reset their thought process around the idea of caregiving?
So this is what I heard. What disruptor could I share that could restart the process?
Yeah.
And I want to take it from a lane of personal.
Yeah.
You must understand that I was 230 pounds, having gained about 40 pounds and caring for my mother with Alzheimer's, handling all these major hair care brands, traveling 52 trips a year, always on a plane, trying to write plans for her, trying to navigate my siblings. And I came through that and I had a question with God. How do I serve you in this process? I came through this. We had dignity. These siblings were united. And how do I do that? And understand that doesn't change the way my mindset is. Where do we at some point in time recognize this is above you? It's above you and beyond you. Because I'm gonna toot my own horn right now. I'm 72 on Saturday.
And
God is so good.
Yeah.
I have learned the way in which to lean into what he has for my life and my lane of responsibility like I've never had before. Yeah. And I'm able to do it in a way where I'm going up, I'm going down, so in other words, I'm taking care of my downstream. I'm taking care of the seniors that are around me, all because I asked the question, God, we came through this with dignity with my mom. How can I serve you with this? God first. Because I love how Danielle spoke to the blue zones. There are other countries like Sweden. There are villages that are understanding that it is comfortable for you to leave your house as a senior and walk outside and be safe.
Yes.
That is not something that's within our world here. It doesn't mean it can't be.
Yeah.
When are we going to, you the one who built this daggone tree in my backyard. You built this tree in my backyard. When are we going to recognize we can go get this bag? Yeah. We can go get this back. And the only reason why I know we can go get this back is because I've got it back.
Yeah.
So what is my exercise? I'm a golfer. If I drive by a golf course, my car is going to immediately go left or right to pull up to it. And when you hit your weight times X factor, you doing something. You're generating some serious force, because I'm really big into muscular structure, which is also what Danielle leaned into. As a matter of fact, I know I'm going back into my weight training. Y'all, I did not know I could get these kind of wrinkles. Where in the world did this come from? Come on now. What? I've made all these products, skincare products, hair care products. No, we're not going down like this. The ability to enact change in our life is from the moment in time in which we submit ourselves to our cause and put God first, and he will come for you and you'll map that plan. And I'm not done yet.
Yeah.
I'm not done yet. I thank God every day for the ability, the strength to carry on, to keep building these discussions, to say, we can do better. I'm looking at my ministries. Excuse me. No one goes hungry right now for Thanksgiving, as far as I'm concerned. I don't want grandmother to compromise what she has in her apples, in her sweet potatoes. I want a sweet potato pie. I don't want a yam pie. Do y'all understand what I'm saying? People who cook understand what I'm talking about, okay? Yeah. We can change this.
Yeah.
But I do recognize it is one family at a time. It is one individual at a time. But I
Yeah.
also believe that in what you created in this discussion, we can link arms. I am extremely excited about continuing relationship with Danielle and what it is that she's working with and how, et cetera. Because God made it clear to me that where we are lacking is the aspect of the trees connecting. Have you noticed how trees always touch each other?
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
I'm going back to trees.
Come on. This is a tree. This is a proverbial tree right now that we've planted. And there's some work that I did around systemic assimilation, and it had to do with roots and uprooting. I will not get into that. That is a whole nother version of the nerd in me. But what I will tell you is that we are reversing systemic assimilation by having this conversation. Assimilation is just aligning with whatever the pattern is in front of you. We are resisting it today because we are calling ourselves into a stronger and more sturdy, steady place of focus around prevention and education. And so it is as and since we're telling our ages, and Danielle, you decide if you want to tell your age, but I got a big one coming, y'all.
I'm 46.
46, and I am 49, respectfully. And the big one is coming, and I'm calling it the big one, not because I'm like looking at it as if it's like this big looming thing, but because I recognize that it also symbolizes quite a few major milestone moments in life, period. And I remember being on a call, and I will say that I'm also sub about 50 pounds over the last year because I look back and realize that my travel, my time, my lack of sleep, my lack of air, exercise, clarity, focus caught up with me. And I saw it in my cheeks, and I didn't realize that it was everywhere else because my clothes still fit. They were just tight. So let's just have a real conversation because I love the way I feel now. But that does then require strength training. And I come from the old school of Taibo and kickboxing and full body workouts, 2 days, dancing. My body is very resilient, but my behaviors were not conducive to that. And now walking in this space where I'm like, okay, I got about 27 more to go. I'm still working through it. I'm sure I'm down some more. I haven't weighed. But it's not about the weight for me now. It's about the health. One of the things my family, my siblings and I committed to, because diabetes does run on my paternal side. And we decided, no, my sister's a lifestyle nurse. I decided I was going to make this change. My other sibling decided to make this change. My brother decided to make this change in his life. And we've all decided that won't be our fate. And so when we lost our dad, we knew it was the decline of his health as a result of, right, diabetes. And we knew that his family, his father, his mother, all had triple bypass surgeries. And my grandmother on my maternal side, she went into what I call that sweet by and by through just, it was a beautiful, peaceful, the difference in their lifestyles was very clear, but she went into a very sweet peace. And so she left us, but she didn't leave us before she was gone. And the difference in my grandmother on my dad's side, she left us. She didn't necessarily leave us before she was gone, but she was not as sweet. She lost some of the sweetness that I think was available for us to have as grandchildren because she was almost angry that she could no longer be as high function as she was. And so I look at those two girls and I'm thinking, where are you in this thing, girlfriend? Because you are very high function and you're also very sweet. What is it going to look like when you lose some of your capacity? We know that's going to happen. So I start thinking about things like that. But part of my prevention was, let's get some of this weight off so that I can amplify my fineness. Let's go farther with this thing. That's right. And then what does it look like for me to be an example and to have this conversation and call it out? This is not an anti-aging conversation. I was laughing, Danielle, I got on a call and I was like, Danielle, how do I fix this? I think, is there a surgery for this thing or whatever? This girl breaks down the actual, what you call it. She broke down the structure of the tendons, right, in my neck. Is that what it is, Danielle? And she told
the ligaments and the tendons.
The ligaments. She told me, just give it some time to restore itself. So I've been doing my exercises because I noticed in my mother that they started to collapse a little bit. And I was like, oh, I don't want that. How do you fix that part? And that's just having dialogue about it. That's keeping me in a place where I feel very strong and I feel very confident about myself as I'm aging. I'm not an anti-aging kind of girl. I'm not looking for all the serums and creams, although I do have access to them now. But I am thinking about the things that matter most, and presenting well is important to me. So as you start thinking about your system, and Pat, you nailed it, right? Fix us. Well, let's fix us first so we can be here for the long term. I really wanted to be lighter on my feet so that I can hit these stages and travel without the pain and angst of traveling, right? On the back end. I don't want to feel it, but maybe I do need to implement some preventative and wellness care around body restoration and massages and things of that nature. So those are things we're talking about in this circle. And how do we do that so I can be stronger, wiser? And as I'm hitting the gym, my body's constantly being restored. So anyway, just talking about what we're doing, right? As I'm approaching the beautiful, bright lights of the 5-0. Danielle, what are you doing? My oldest is 16 now. What are you doing with your children to create a system that helps them kind of position themselves in that preventative phase of digital dementia?
I'm glad you asked that question because I've been on this for so long that I can remember a time where people really made fun of me 23, 24 years ago, where people made fun of me because I said, hey, if you buy my child a birthday gift, I don't want anything electronic. Let it be books, building blocks, toys, puzzles, imaginative play. Let it be an activity. And when my girls were getting older and people wanted to give them cell phones, family members wanted, well-meaning family members, oh, they need a cell phone. You need to be able to get in contact. And what do you think we did before 1990? What do you think we did? So yes, my daughter has a cell phone, but it's an old school flip phone. You're not going to get on anybody's World Wide Web. On your days, you're going to learn how to communicate. And if you're going to text, it's going to take you so long to hit those buttons that you're just going to give up and call somebody and have a real conversation.
Yeah.
Things like that. They're a part of household chores. That's a part of your contribution to this household. So not only are we learning community and responsibility, we're learning real life skills so that when you get out here, you can actually function. Because think if the internet went down, if we had some terrorist attack and that affected the internet, would half the population know how to get from point A to point B without the GPS? Do you remember anybody's phone number?
That's right.
Would you know how to cook? If there's a food shortage, would you know how to go in your pantry and figure out what these 5 ingredients you could throw together and make something?
No.
So we have to bring critical thinking, compassion, duty back into everyday lives. They've never had TVs in their room. My children have never even owned a tablet. And so we think about setting up that house structure around success. And that's why all of my children, even my 13-year-old, can cook. They could throw down because they've been in the kitchen, starting from a baby, in the cart, in the grocery store. Okay, count me 5 oranges. What color is this? So it pains me when I see children in the grocery stores on a phone. They're missing so much. At a dinner table, out at a restaurant, everybody's on their phone. They're missing so much opportunity. Around the holiday time, what I like to do, everyone knows me. If you come to my house and I have a party, leave your cell phone in the bowl at the door. You don't have to worry about, oh, I want to take a picture. Don't worry, I hired a photographer. They're going to capture the whole thing and you'll have a link and you can download all the photos. So be present. For my Christmas party, for 10 years running now, we do a talent showcase where we engage people to exhibit their talents, either real or imagined. We have to sit up there and act a fool. But we've had so many wonderful discoveries. I didn't know that this young lady could do poetry. I didn't know that this person could sing. One year, me and my daughter won with a puppet show where we had a comedy skit. It engages you to step outside of your box at least once a year, do something silly, do something brave, and connect.
Yes. Yeah. It's a heart-to-heart experience. Life is to be lived, felt, and experienced. I think you have to feel your life. And Danielle, that was phenomenal. I think when we think about parenting and mothering and guiding our children at this stage of life in this very digital environment, your norms are definitely extraordinary norms because most people aren't taking the time to think about how simple life can be and how dynamic it can be when you can simply connect heart to heart. Your conversations, you have more intel on your kids than you'd ever get by snooping the back door of their socials, right? Because you're talking to them. I'll share this mommy moment with you all too. And I'm going to ask you about All right. So families, listen, I know we're not going to give a list of our favorite things, but I want us to think about some really cool things we could provide or give as gifts to help promote this conversation forward. And I'm think about back in the day when you would go to your favorite toy store or you would go to your favorite holiday market. What's something that we can retreat and go back to? But as simple as, I'll tell you this story. So it's tongue in cheek. And as a mom, if you get it, you'll appreciate it. So I have a 16-year-old and he was walking out of the house. I'm like, you're the most expensive hobo looking child I've ever seen in my life. Like, why are your very expensive jogging pants cut at the bottom? Where are your socks? You have on these Birks. What, this jacket that is from an exclusive yoga designer, like your backpack from the most elite because you're an athlete. What is this attire that you have on? And I'm like, so he's walking out of the door. And if you know me, I'm a little snarky. So I said, I hope you meet the most important person on the planet today. Like that. He's walking out and he looks back over his shoulder and he said, I already did. I said, who is it? And I'm like, what just happened? Is it me? No. He goes, I already did. I said, what's their name? And he tells me the name. And I said, what's that? You'll meet her. Hands down, I was stumped. And let me tell you why that was so powerful. Because in my attempt to cause him to think about what he was wearing out of the door, there is such a level of confidence and an understanding of who he is as a man, as a young man, that my snarky remarks didn't even allow him to go back into the thought to think, is mommy not proud of me right now? He went into affirming himself and his decision-making criteria and his ability to connect with another human, that he was so sure that she was a phenomenal human being because he was checked into that thing whole body, right? Now I'm gonna tell y'all, y'all know you're like, she's stretching it. No, I'm not, because I met her and I was thinking to myself, he might be right. He might be right. And I loved that challenge as a parent, because Danielle, to your point, your resistance to status quo, Pat, your call out of status quo and your alignment with what's possible for us. And even my awareness as a parent raising a teenager and young adults, it is no, let's think about the good we put in these people, because they are actually walking examples of all the values and all of the time we've invested. As you said earlier, this is a heart. We are raising our caregivers. We are building our aging platform now. Let's really put some pressure testing on it this holiday season to see what we've got in there, because that's going to call us to a point to figure out, do we need to make some adjustments? Do we have empathy? How's the EQ at the table? Do we have emotional intelligence? Are we empathetic? Are we kind? And what will you never, ever say to your child again as a mom to try to check him? I'm not doing that. I'm like, hey, just tell me what cart you want me to purchase. Put your stuff in the car. I got you. Because I'm like, hey, clearly he's got this whole self-esteem and awareness piece down. That's good. That means from a cognitive standpoint, he's not running this meter to figure out if he will ever measure up. He's already measured. You see what I'm saying? You start dissecting that. Okay, anyway. Sorry, let's go.
No, I think that's really powerful. I just want to piggyback on that one quick second. The less time that they spend on their devices, the more ability that they have to develop that sense of self and self-esteem. It is so destructive to their self-esteem, their self-awareness, their sense of who they are in this world, what their values are, their moral compass. It's so important for them to really stay off of the devices more and be more in the real world so that they have a chance.
Good.
You know what's really funny about this is, so my granny name is Gigi.
Yeah.
And it is known and understood when you come to Gigi's house, you're going to have a Gigi time. So a good example of that is, it is the opportunity to remove the standardization of what toys are. I don't care if it was Stretch Armstrong back in the 70s and 80s. It doesn't matter to me. What matters is creating activities that the whole family can get involved with. But I really love it when you bring in math and science. Yes. So a good example is that I have a grandson who's gifted, and he's already self-proclaimed that I am a preacher and an inventor, and I'm probably going to be president of the United States, and I already know who I'm going to fire. Literally, and of which my son says, please, son, do not articulate that outside this household. because we need to control what stays in the house. But sit in the house stays in the house, right?
Stays in the house, right?
That's right.
So I want you to go back to this past weekend. It's his birthday weekend, and it's a big deal because we do birthdays big. And he's over Gigi's house. But what do you do at Gigi's house? He says, "Can I go in the pantry and get my cups?" So what is that? So I have these color-coded cups. And what he does is he goes on the stairs, and the goal and objective is to take cup 1 and roll it down the stair and see if you can get the cup to land straight up. Physics. Step 4, step 5, and color-coded. Do you understand what I'm saying? And the goal of the game is who can get enough cups to go down the stairs and stand in an upward position. And how long did he do that?
Yeah.
An hour, and he's 6 years old. Well,
Let's go.
The next day, he was 7, right? Grandparents, what I love is children love the stories. Oh my gosh. Your kids don't want to hear it. They hate it. When I remember back in my day, they don't even want to see. If you say it, they go run in the opposite direction. But the grandchildren are your historians. In this instance, we create these great tablet books. So I buy the little Post-it tablets, it's the crayons, and we create these stories. And he will come over into the house. We need to finish our story, Gigi.
Yeah.
So I got stories about his dad, little boo. I got stories in terms of us being, by the way, Kyra, I am from the West Side, and I'm from the South Side and West Side of Chicago. I am a stepper, just so you know. I am a stepper.
I never questioned your authority.
Okay. Just want to point that out to you. And in this instance, it's let's complete our story. I tell you what, Gabriel, what do houses look like in other countries? Let's go draw those. It is amazing. The most simplest things goes back to the heart to heart.
Yeah.
All we're really looking for is the connective tissue. Now, the fact that we decided to turn into a device we created when God gave us each other is just a choice. But I want parents to understand how to turn their kids onto the grandparents, and they will talk about it and say, well, the other aspect of it, my granddaughter will come home from, by the way, Kyra, she's at PV. Wonderful. So I have the 20-year-old, soon to be 21, and then there's a 7-year-old. And she'll come home, Gigi, I know what I want. I just need me some cabbage and some cornbread, and I'll do baked chicken if you're not gonna fry it. As long as you cutting up some, I'll cut it up. It's the community inside the household starts. It starts there.
Yeah,
it really does. And so I love Danielle's stories of trying to maintain in a world where everybody is forcing technology on children. I will tell people today, I said, please know that I'm from the lane. I am not afraid of AI. AI needs to know good.
Yeah, it needs to know good.
It needs to know good. We need to, but it's our responsibility to manage this process as opposed to letting it take over our lives to the negative.
That's so good. No, Pat, thank you for that. And I'm gonna encapsulate your gift. The gift is to give our families ourselves, to give our families each other. And even better than that, to give our children, our grandparents, because you're right. My mother has authored several books, of which I will put some links to capture your family lineage and heritage and stories. And she has published these books, and I will tell you, I would listen to my grandmother before I sit and listen to Mama talk about it all. But now, as I'm sitting here, I'm like, oh, Mom, tell me the story again. And I told you that already. Go to the group chat and pull up the link. So she real serious about it. But Danielle, real quick, we have another minute. If there was a gift that parents could be thinking about, or partners or colleagues, whatever, could be thinking about to give within the family during this season of giving, what would be maybe 1 or 2 gifts you'd recommend that we give that would help us on this prevention journey?
I would say give the gift of setting new norms for the family. Yeah. I know it's not a tangible item, but I think setting new norms and having those conversations so that moving forward, we're more intentional. But if it were to be a gift that we could give, I'm always big on art. I'm always big on anything artistic, we forget how to be playful. We forget how to be innovative as we get older. So whether it's for an older person or a younger person, anything artistic, a paint set, adult coloring book.
Very good. Smart CEOs, we have taken the time to be disruptive in your world and push our conversation in. And we don't make any apology about it. That's just not who we are. We want you to get the good that is available to you and to know that we are all smart enough to get in the room. That's who a smart CEO is. So regardless of whether you're leading a major corporation, you're leading an entrepreneurial journey, or you're simply leading your household, smart CEOs, our duty and our opportunity is to join in on the journey of excuse proofing life. And in this moment, we want you to live stronger, longer, legacy driven lives as leaders of organizations, as leaders of community, and leaders of families. And so thank you for taking the time to jump into this. You will find all of the links. I will even drop the link to Dalva Yvette Yarrington's books in this thread and share them with you. And that is very personal to me to share that, but she's got tools for you to track and talk through your family legacy if you haven't done that. And we'll have tools and resources from caregiver coach Pat Bailey. And I want you to pay some particular attention to the Nurse That Knows and Danielle Riley as she opens up this environment for us to be even more made more aware of what the digital dementia dialogue is and how to be preventative in the process. And so tune in, lock in. We don't do any of this because we do it because it's important. We don't do it just because we do it because it's important. And so this is our time to do this. This is your call. This is your wake-up call. This is your sign if you needed it. And until next time, I am Kyra Rénel, the Smart CEO, excited to be with you. And I can't wait to see you next time. Have an amazing day, everyone. You've been one of the best and smartest talks on a Thursday that you could ever have. Take care. Thanks for listening to Smart Chat. Smart CEOs, you are on your way. We hope this episode has been fantastic for you. We are excited that you were here. So here's the deal. Follow us on all of our social media, look up the Kyra Company, and join us on all of our private platforms. We invite you to join our private Facebook group at the Smart CEOs. Jump in, join the conversation, and learn more about what we can do every day to grow our business and grow our community. Thanks so much for joining us. We're excited that you were here. Once again, I'm Kyra Hardwick, and you know it. I was thrilled to bring the Smart Chat to you. Take care. Talk to you soon.